important to realize that this person chose her own death.
She chose her own death. She's responsible for her own death.
Because she ran over a federal officer. She did not have
those circumstances are disputed, as you know,
The reality of it is that there's too much video evidence. Let me just say, there's just too much evidence to suggest that she...
You think she deserved to die?
And well, again, when a person kills another person, they sentencing themselves to die.
A mother of 3 was shot dead by an ICE agent during an immigration enforcement operation. Inside her car when she died, no drugs, no weapons, no criminal record, just stuffed animals. Donald Trump called her a domestic terrorist before a single piece of evidence had been examined. And his personal spiritual advisor, Pastor Mark Burns, came on British television and said she reaped what she sowed. Those are his words. A man of God. About a mother of 3 with stuffed animals in her car. Goodall did not have to raise his voice once. He just kept asking Pastor Burns to reconcile what he was saying with the faith he claims to represent. Burns had no answer because there is no answer. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now because this one genuinely has to be seen to be believed. Now let us get into it.
But there are also many in Europe right now who feel afraid of the United States for the first time in our lives. They feel afraid of your president because he is threatening quite openly, and including, indeed, if reports are to be believed, asking American generals to draw up plans to invade what is effectively European sovereign territory in Greenland. Should we be afraid of you?
Well, of course not. I mean, it's preposterous and it's laughable to suggest that our greatest ally, Great Britain, and those of us who are so much alike with our holidays and language and even some of our cultures, we're essentially the same people divided by waters in many cases. And so it's laughable to suggest that Europe, especially Great Britain, needs to be afraid of President Donald Trump or the United States of America. You fail to remember that it was President Reagan who declared, tear down this wall.
Absolutely. President Reagan wouldn't have threatened to invade Greenland, would he, Pastor Burns?
Well, I mean, you got to understand there was a purpose and a reason why those type of languages and conversations are coming up concerning Greenland. You got to understand our adversaries, Russia and China, who are strategically positioning themselves in the Arctic area. This is a devastating move of military might that Russia and China positioning submarines and nuclear powers within those regions.
In which case,
that is something that we cannot have.
In which case, absolutely,
that protects Great Britain.
Absolutely, Pastor Burns, and the Danish government and the European Union and Great Britain are all equally concerned with those things, which is precisely why the Danish government and the Greenlanders have said to the United States government, under the existing treaty that you have, which was signed in 1951 under President Truman, you are able to do whatever you want effectively in Greenland. You can have as many military bases as you want. You can have as many soldiers as you want. And yet President Trump is suggesting that he will take Greenland the hard way or the easy way. So that is why people currently right now in Greenland and in Denmark and in the rest of Europe are scared of you. And whether we have the same holidays or not, as you put it, that's understandable, isn't it?
Well, again, it's understandable when you don't have American interests as number one.
You're a pastor. And of course, in Christianity, of course, a central dictum is treat thy neighbor as you would treat thyself. Do you think that President Trump right now, with his allies, with his friends, with Denmark, with Greenland, who have done nothing to him but support him, do you think that he's living up to that spiritual dictum?
Again, I think that you are mixing words. The reality of it is President Trump's number one goal is to protect American interests. No, sir, that's a fool. That is not true. I know the man, and the man is a giver. And unfortunately, you people like you who've never met him and you only know him through the lenses of some news clip or some bite by some liberal media outlet that is spreading it around the world.
With respect, Pastor Burns. With respect, Pastor Burns. With respect.
Let me finish, please. Let me finish, please. Let me finish. The people like you who take these small sound bites and don't know the man as a father, don't know the man, as a wonderful, wonderful husband to his wife, Melania, not understanding the wonderful grandfather to his grandchildren, and his love for American people. That includes black people, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus,
Somalians?
all over the world.
Somali Americans,
if we
which you
want to
call
talk
garbage?
about Somalia, we want to talk about the corruption that is happening in Minnesota. That is not a race issue. That is a integrity issue of these group of people in Minnesota who have taken advantage of American society. And so that has nothing to do with race. That has everything to do with integrity. And these people who are part of these people who are part of this evil manipulation of funds are not good people. And so however you want to try to shape it or frame it, you're trying to dummy down their actions because of your hatred and your disgruntledness of President Donald Trump. So you'd be willing to accept fraud that is happening in America, defrauded the American people, the American tax dollar, just because you despise Donald Trump. That is what we call Trump deranged syndrome. And it doesn't matter what the president does or how he is or who his true character is.
There's no question,
and
Pastor Burns.
Testimony by people like me who know him very well.
I understand.
Who know him to be a kind man.
I understand. One final question, Pastor Burns. We're very grateful for your time this morning. I know it's very early where you are as well. Given you mentioned Minnesota, and again, as you are a religious man, and you say that Donald Trump is as well, how does it fit with Christianity when we see a woman, whatever the circumstances, a mother of three, killed on the streets of Minneapolis, killed, and the president does not hesitate, does not wait for a single second to find out the circumstances or the evidence of that killing, and instead simply declares her a domestic terrorist with no pity and no remorse for the loss for her children and family? How does that align with your, or indeed his, Christianity?
Well, I think it's important to realize that this person chose her own death.
She chose her own death. She's responsible for her own death.
Because she ran over a federal officer. She did not have
those circumstances are disputed, as you know,
the reality of it is that there's too much video evidence. Let me just say, there's just too much evidence to suggest that she...
You think she deserved to die?
And well, again, when a person kills another person, they sentencing themselves to die. That's their choice. If you murder somebody...
You didn't murder anybody.
Choosing no, but my point of it is a person's decisions. If you decide to reject Jesus as your Lord and Savior,
so she had
God
it coming.
is not sending you to hell. You're sending yourself to hell. It is your choice. It is your decisions. If you decide to shoot up drugs in your arm, and even though people around you saying, don't do it, stop. Please be still, but yet you still shooting up drugs in your arm, then whatever happens is because you pushed it to be. And God has a grace and a love. He sends people that says, I'm going to look beyond your faults and still meet your needs. But in the end, you reap, as the Bible says, what you sow.
So she had it coming.
This woman, she deserved I'm not saying she had it coming, and I'm not saying she deserved it. I'm saying she reaped what she sowed. The question that
there was no evidence, Pastor Burns. There was no evidence. There was no evidence of drugs. There was no criminal activity.
We're not talking about drugs, but when we saying that there was an order that was, I'm using it as an example, right? And I'm sorry, you may be a little bit slow. You can't follow the conversation. The point of it is,
I can't follow what you're saying. I must be honest. No.
You reap what you sow. That's the end of the day. The woman was asked to stop. Like every person in America, when a law
just for clarity, Pastor Burns, I think we owe it to her family.
Stop. But number two, she decided, even with her partner trying to get into the car, she sped off, hitting in the police of hitting the law enforcement officer. Sir, that is an assault on a law enforcement officer, and many courts would consider that an attempted on life, right? Because she has a vehicle and she's driving, and she sees that law enforcement officer, the ICE officer in front, regardless of your political ideology. or
I
your
think we owe
belief.
it. I think we owe it. Pastor
Hold on, let me
Burns,
finish,
I
sir,
think we,
'cause I'm
no,
not
you've
finishing.
spoken for a long time. I think we owe it to her family.
Because we're not finishing. The reality of it is she hit him with a vehicle. There's too much film
No, she didn't.
evidence. And because of your Trump deranged syndrome, you're going to ignore the physical evidence. There's so many different videos from people's cell phones that shows the officer being hit
Pastor
by
Burns.
a vehicle. Sir,
Pastor
that
Burns,
could be
you
considered
brought up. No, I think we owe it to her family. I mentioned. Started this by saying how it aligned with your religion, and you've brought in various non sequiturs, various things that do not align with her. So I think we owe it to her family to make one thing very clear. There was no evidence of drugs or criminal activity. Reports and her family assert she was an American citizen with no criminal record. No weapons or drugs were found in her car. Indeed, inside her car, you know the only thing that agents found? Stuffed animals. That is someone your president described as a domestic terrorist, a mother of three who was killed by one of his ICE agents. And you, as a man of the cloth, show no remorse about that or no regret about that whatsoever?
Absolutely saddened that her life is lost. Nobody.
President doesn't sound very sad.
No. Listen, you're confusing. You're ignoring the fact that she had a weapon. It's called a vehicle. It's called putting her feet on the gas and pressing it. Even though the law enforcement officers had a right to say stop, she did not stop. They said, get out the car. She did not get out the car. Instead, she chose to put her feet on the gas. And even though there was an ICE agent in front of her, she chose to continue to drive ahead. Now, no, she was no drugs. No, she had no guns, but she did have a weapon, and it's called a car. It's called a vehicle. And even in Europe, when there are terrorists who have taken their vehicle and used it to run people over in the middle of the street, to drive a car in the midst of people, knowing it's going to cause harm, that person was labeled as a terrorist.
The woman in question, Renee Nicole Goode, let's use her name.
Hit a man. The woman hit an officer of the law in the United States of America. Have she hit anyone, for that matter? If it had been you and
Renee
you
Nicole
were standing
Goode,
there with
Burns.
your camera and she hit you, the law enforcement officers would have pulled their weapon and stopped this individual from potentially hurting more people.
Renee Nicole Goode.
That's sad.
She was such a domestic threat.
It breaks my heart that death has happened. No one wants anything like that to take place. It is no one should be killed, but the reality of it is,
she was such a domestic threat. She was such a domestic threat that she calmly said on video. She calmly said on video that everything was fine, and I'm not mad at you. Seconds before an on-duty immigrations customs enforcement agent fatally shot her. That's how much of a threat that she was, Pastor.
The gas, sir.
Okay.
You're ignoring. You're not even acknowledging that. You're only talking about the.
Well, you know as well as I do that
but
it's highly disputed, and local, the local government and state government have been very, very clear that they dispute the account that the federal government has given. Anyway, Pastor Mark Burns, it's been a spirited.
Let us be very clear about what happened in that interview, because the details matter enormously and they deserve to be stated plainly. Renee Nicole Goode was a mother of three. She was an American citizen. She had no criminal record. When ICE agents searched her car after shooting her, they found no drugs, no weapons, no evidence of criminal activity. They found stuffed animals. That is the person Donald Trump called a domestic terrorist within hours of her death, before any investigation had taken place, before any evidence had been examined, before her family had even been formally notified. And his spiritual advisor sat on British television and said her death was her own choice, that she reaped what she sowed. Let that sink in for a moment. A pastor. Using biblical language about sowing and reaping to justify the shooting of a mother of three with stuffed animals in her car. Pastor Burns tried several different arguments to justify this position, and each one deserves to be examined because they were not random. They were the same arguments being deployed across right-wing media in America to justify what happened to Renee Nicole Goode and to prepare the ground for it to happen again. First, he said she used her car as a weapon. The circumstances of what happened in that car are actively disputed. The Minnesota state government and local authorities have explicitly contradicted the federal government's account. That is not a fringe position. That is the elected government of the state where this happened, saying the federal version of events is not accurate. But Burns presented the federal account as settled fact and dismissed the dispute entirely. Then he compared her to a terrorist who drives a vehicle into a crowd. A woman in a car with stuffed animals and no criminal record in a disputed confrontation with immigration agents compared to a terrorist attack. That comparison is not a mistake. It is a deliberate rhetorical move designed to place Renee Nicole Goode outside the circle of people whose deaths deserve grief or accountability. Once you have labeled someone a terrorist, the audience stops asking questions about what actually happened. That is the function of the label, and Burns used it without hesitation. And then there is the moment that exposes everything about what the religious right in America has become. Lewis Goodall asked Burns a simple question. How does Trump's response to this killing? No remorse, no waiting for evidence, immediate condemnation of a dead mother align with Christianity? And Burns could not answer it, not because he was caught off guard, but because there is no Christian answer to that question. There is no verse in any gospel that says a mother of 3 with stuffed animals in her car deserved to be shot because she did not stop for immigration agents in disputed circumstances. There is no theological framework in which that is grace or compassion or what Jesus would recognize. So Burns reached for law and order instead, for the authority of the state. For the idea that when someone defies an officer of the law, the consequences are on them. That is not Christianity. That is authoritarianism with a cross on top of it. This is what Lewis Goodall exposed in that interview, and it is more important than any individual exchange or insult Burns threw at him. The religious right in America is not a religious movement. It is a political movement that uses religious language to sanctify political violence and strip compassion from public life. When a pastor can sit on television and say a dead mother reaped what she sowed and feel no conflict with his faith, the faith is no longer doing the work. The politics is. And that should alarm every single person of genuine faith on every side of the political spectrum. Renee Nicole Goode deserved better. Her children deserve better. And the country deserves leaders and spiritual figures who can at least wait for the evidence before calling a dead woman with stuffed animals in her car a domestic terrorist. This is Fool's Ballot. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe to the channel if you are not already there, and share this one widely, because Renee Nicole Goode's name deserves to be remembered and her story deserves to be heard. I will see you in the next one.